Howdy, Brainiacs! Today, I was watching a video by the physicist Harold Lesch on Terra X, and he was talking about atomic energy. But while he was talking about atomic energy, he happened to bring up Euler's number, or E, and he brought it out pretty far. So I was thinking, this is a good chance for us to think about memory again. So that's what we are going to talk about today.
Welcome to Alien Institute.
2.7182818. Thank you, Dr. Lesch from Terra X. Anyway, today we're going to do a bit of an uncut, hopefully. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to when I really started focusing on my memory game. I'm sure I did it earlier, like in elementary school, but I really remember the game taking on a whole new meaning in junior high school. Probably around 7th grade, for sure 8th grade. In 7th grade, I took some language. I took a class called Exploring Foreign Languages. One of my teachers was Mrs. Rossi, and that was probably where I was learning some new words, that sort of thing. And also health, we had to memorize, parts of the body, the kidneys, and, the organs and other things like that. But the first time I remember having sort of a technique, or at least a technique taught to me, was when I took U.S. history and I had to memorize the presidents in order. So I had a really good teacher, Mr. Collins. Thank you, Mr. Collins. And he taught us a story. So I'm going to share that story with you today just to show you that this thing stuck with me for a very long time. I'm a little rusty. I haven't done it in forever. But I remember back then, he had brought in a kid from high school. So we're in like 8th grade, and he brings in this kid from high school, and we thought it was a gimmick or whatever, all the other kids. But we're thinking like, oh, he's just going to, he's doing some way to cheat or convince us. And this high school kid comes in, and he just rattles a story off. So we're thinking, did this kid really still remember? Like, years have gone by. Did this kid really remember, or did he practice, or what? Well, years later, when I was in high school, I'm like, no, he didn't. He could come in cold turkey and do this. It was that memorable. So it's a crazy story. In the links down below, I'll probably write out the story, and I'll underline the key words that identify the presidents. But the way the story goes, let me see if I can remember this. So I think I remember the first half really easily. So it goes, in Washington, Adam was jeopardized by a mad monster. Adam and Jack ran to the bureau, but in their hurry, they broke a tile and poked a tailor. They filmed more buildings pierced by cannons, which were linked to John by a grand piano. Okay, so like the last part, linked Lincoln to John Johnson by a grand piano. Grand is going to be Grant. Okay, so I'm going to have to double check this afterwards to make sure that I got through it clean, but I'm pretty sure it's just stuck in my memory banks. The second part, no pun intended, was a little hazy. Starts off with the haze. But anyhow, the second part, I knew back then cold, and probably 5 or 10 years after I knew it cold. I think I got it still today. So let's see if I can do it. The haze over garden and field sheltered Arthur, who cleaved his way in a hurry, who cleaved his way wearing a Mackintosh, and said, a rose taffeta dress will hardly do in college, but whoever desires rose veils may truly wear them on the ice in Canada, where John nicked his Ford's bumper and was carted away to regain its stature. Now, the regain its stature part we added at the end. We still talked about this stuff in high school, just just out of curiosity. We oh, you still remember that story? Yeah, I still remember it. Oh, what do we do about Reagan? They just had, and then some kid came up and he goes, oh yeah, carted away to regain his stature. We might have even had to, I'm trying to remember. I think Carter was president when I was in 8th grade. So I think he was just being added. I'd have to think about that one a little bit. But anyway, the whole story, each of the words identify the president. So what you do on your test is you just write down the story real quickly. You just got to identify the key words. Remember how many presidents there are in case you miss one of the key words. And voila, you get your A on the test. I don't know a kid that didn't get an A on that test. I do remember a funny, talking about memories, I do remember over the clock, when you're impatient and you're a kid, especially as boys, we're sitting there and we're just like, what time is it? We're looking, is the class almost over? His class was pretty entertaining, so we weren't looking at the clock that much. But on the clock it said, time will pass, but will you? And then you're thinking like, oh shoot, will I pass the class? Okay, so he was kind of humorous. I do remember another quote he had was Santayana, which was those that don't know history are condemned to repeat it, or something like that. And then I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then I think in 9th grade or whatever, we read about Romeo and Juliet, and I'm like, well, shoot, that doesn't apply to them, because them knowing their history, the grudge that they had was generational. And I started thinking, yeah, Hatfields and McCoys. I'm like, I guess that quote doesn't really work. But, you get the point. He was, a lot of the stuff he did in that class stuck out because he acted it out and it stuck in our minds. And things like that stick in your minds, and that's what you want to do for your memory. The other thing I remember was French class. So, of course, I wanted to take German. I had already learned all the numbers up to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. And a friend of mine on the street taught me before I even went to junior high school. That was in elementary school. So I'm like, all right, I can't wait to take German. And my sister had taken it at a different high school. And I'm thinking I get to take it. But me, I took it early. Well, what they would call early, it was 9th grade. In junior high, high school starts at 9th, but you're still in junior high. And now it's a middle school concept where it's 6th, 7th, 8th, and then you do 9 through 12. But back then we would do 7, 8, 9, and then we'd go off to the high school. Well, if I took a foreign language in 9th grade, we only had 2 options, and that was French and Spanish. No German and no Russian, which I took in my exploring foreign languages class in 7th grade. Anyway, getting to the point was that we had to memorize the flag salute, and we're big dummies in 9th grade. We're just thinking like, oh, flag salute. We don't know if we're memorizing we're just learning words, and that's what we have to do. And we're not sure. We don't even know if it's if it's our flag salute or if it's some French flag salute. But we do know we're doing it in French. So I still remember that today, and that's what I call the blob technique. So the blob technique is you don't know what it means, you have no connection to it, but you have something in there that's going to motivate you. There's always got to be a motivator. In our class, the guys were just competing to see who could do it the fastest. We knew we had to do it, and then we're like, well, let's just make this fun. Let's see who can do it the fastest. So after we started memorizing it, we start memorizing little pieces really fast. So the words, it's almost like German where it's a bunch of words just smashed together to make one whole long word. Well, that's what we were doing with the flag salute. And so we would do like a whole sentence, but the whole sentence would be like one word the way we were saying it. So we could say it faster. So let's see if I can run this one off real fast, just so that you can see that I can still do it. All right, let's see. Here we go. J'engage ma fidélité au drapeau des États-Unis, d'Amérique et à la République qui représente une nation soudure, indivisible, avec liberté et justice pour tous. Okay, so, and that is our flag salute. I should have had my hand over my heart, but that's our flag salute, and it's in French. But you can see I could do it, and actually back then I could do it faster. I was just running everything together, just like one whole word. I shoot it out. Moral of the story here is the competition got me going. I wanted to be the fastest. So competition can spur you to memorize something. Like, I'm going to get this. And if you blob it together, if you have a lot of information and you blob it together, you can just make it one whole piece. And then if you need certain pieces out of it, like I pledge, I'm like, oh, well, that would be j'engage. Oh, engagé, that must be to pledge. And I could pick out pieces based off of where I was. Indivisible, oh, that's indivisible. Okay, so that's the idea behind the blob. Memorize everything, just smash it together as one whole word, and then once you have that, you can just pick it apart and pick little pieces out as you need them. The other one was the previous, where you make a strange story out of it. So in Washington, Adam was jeopardized by a mad monster. In Washington, oh, that's President Washington. Adam was jeopardized. Jeopardized was Jefferson. So you're like, oh, Jefferson. Mad monster, Madison Monroe. And you get the idea from there. So what I'm coming at you with is memory is important, and having techniques is really important, because there's a lot of things that we kind of want to lock away in our mind. We did our video on pi. Make sure you see that video up here after you get through watching this one. That's something that you definitely want to see. And then that shows you how I memorize pi, actually out to 31 digits. I could probably go further if I really tested myself. Right now, I probably have it down to 17 cold. I can do 3.14159, and then it would be 2, 6, 5, 3, 5, 8, 9, 7, 9, 3, 2. I mean, I can keep going. I could go further. I start getting into deeper water after the 3, 2. 3, 2, I'm pretty cold, and I can get that cold turkey. And then after that, I think there's let's see, how did I remember that? Okay, that would be a 38 and then a 46. So I think that's after the 32, 38, 46. We can talk at another time as how I got out there and memorized those ones. But in the pi video that I said that will be down in the link, that one describes how I attained that number for such a long time and for such a long distance, that many digits out. And with the E Euler's number, that one I'll just share with you real quickly. The way I do that one, very similar to pi. I chunk. We talk about chunking in that video. I like to chunk numbers in 2 because I have all my 2s memorized. If I need to memorize 11, I attach it to Apollo 11, the first moon landing. If I have to memorize 23, I think 23 chromosomes. I think of the double helix, so I get that image in my mind. So with E, what I do is I know it's 2 point. It's 2 point. And then I say, okay, after that, I say, oh, my brother graduated and then I graduated. So he graduated in 71 and I graduated in 82. So I say, oh, 2.7182. And then I think of area code, but not my area code. I think of the next city's area code, which is 818. So in this respect, as far as Euler's number, I think 2 point brother's graduation, my graduation, neighbor's area code, and then I have Euler's number, at least out that many digits. And if I needed to memorize more digits, I'm confident with a lot of the techniques that I have that I can. Some of these people have competitions as to what they can memorize and how far they can memorize, and give me a hat full of stuff and I'll memorize the stuff in there, and that would be a fun club to belong to. But I usually just take the stuff I need to memorize and just know I have skills to memorize, and that's what I'm hoping you guys will do, because that's going to help your math come along to a higher degree, where you're not just memorizing numbers and not just memorizing names or definitions, but also you want to be able to identify, kind of like how a chess player will identify, oh, he's using Spassky's game because he moved the knight out and then came the bishop, or something to that effect. So when you see certain styles of calculus problems or certain styles of algebra problems, you're like, oh, you can compartmentalize them. And when you compartmentalize mathematics, it makes it a whole lot easier. Anyway, I think that's good enough for today. We'll do more stuff on memorization. We got lots of stuff we need to talk about, lots of math and everything else. But of course, memory is going to be, kind of injected into that, as well as a lot of motivational stuff just to keep you hyped, pumped, and to keep on your brainiac game. All right, that's good for today, and we will see you next time.
Hey, Alien Institute crew, don't forget to strike the like, subscribe, comment, and share. Also, continue learning by watching more AI videos.